up, everyone? So you might think this isn't my usual environment, and you'd be right, but I'm out here in the Dominican Republic on assignment for one of my clients, and since I'm here getting money to pay for my 100 low lead addiction, I figured it'd be the perfect time to go over how much my plane costs to own and operate on a yearly basis. So follow me as I show you behind the scenes of what I do for a living and discuss the true cost of being a plane owner. Let's get to it. All right, so before I get started, let's go over the ground rules. First of all these numbers are gonna be in Canadian dollars. Secondly, I do have a partner in the Cherokee, so all the fixed costs are calculated, split down the middle. And thirdly, well, I am working on my CPL and IFR, so I'm figuring 80 hours a year is a good baseline on which to do these calculations. I probably will fly more, but I doubt I'll fly any less. So with that out of the way, let's head to the beach and we'll go over the actual numbers. All right, so let's start with the fixed costs. I purchased my plane cash, so I don't have any loans to contend with, but there are four main things that I have to pay on a yearly basis, regardless of how many times or how many hours I fly my plane. And those four things are my insurance, my annual, my parking, and the GPS maps for my Garmin head unit. So when it comes to my insurance, I have a pretty decent rate. I'm insured through COPA, which is the Canadian Association of Pilots. And the rate that I have for my plane based on a $68,000 replacement value is $2,880. And that's yearly, and then that's also split in half with my partner. After that, we have our annual. I've only owned the plane 1 year so far, so I can only vouch for the first annual we had, but last year it cost me $2,850. After that, we have our parking fees. We moved recently to a new airport and the parking fees have been really, really low. So for a grass tie-down parking space, it costs us $410 for the whole year. So that's just extremely cheap, especially on the outskirts of Montreal, because everywhere else is just tons of money. And then lastly, we have our GPS database fees, which I find are crazy expensive for what they are. But Garmin wants $760 a year for updated maps every month. So when you add up all those numbers, that gives us about $3,400 of fixed costs, which then you would split by 80 hours a year of planned flight time, and that gives us about $43 an hour of fixed costs, which isn't that bad. Thank you. Delicious. Now on to the variable costs. For the variable costs, we'll start with the big one, and that's gonna be your fuel. When I first got the plane, we had the MoGas STC, and we were putting 91 octane without ethanol in the plane, and I was saving tons of money. But recently, the province of Quebec has decided that ethanol-free MoGas will no longer be available.
How dare you!
And now I'm stuck having to run 100 low lead all the time in the plane, which has raised my gas prices by about 30%. Looking at the MoGas versus 100 low lead difference, I'm getting 100 low lead at $2.50 a liter at the nearby airport, but before that I was paying on average $1.75 a liter for 91 octane ethanol free. So when you consider that my plane then runs at 9 gallons an hour and 9 gallons equates to 34 liters, we are looking at $85 worth of 100 low lead to fly every hour. That is enormous. After the fuel, we have to look at the oil and oil filter. I tend to do one oil change myself, other than the one that gets done during my annual. And if you factor in that amount, it equates to about $3.75 an hour to cover the oil change and the oil filter and the extra oil that we add every 10 or so hours. So then we have $85 plus an extra $4 that we have to add, so we're at $89 an hour. Then it's kind of a good idea to have an engine and prop reserve fund. Since engines in Canada tend to cost about $30,000. Damn! At least the engine that I have in my Cherokee. So I put aside $15 an hour for the overhaul, and then I put aside another $5 an hour for the prop overhaul. So that is another $20 to put aside. So that puts us at $109 per hour of variable costs on the plane. So now that we have our variable costs, we just add those to our fixed cost per hour, and that gives us about $152 an hour to fly my plane. Now, some of you might find that that's a lot of money, especially in a partnership, but if I look at the prices at local flight school, a similarly equipped 172 will run you $194 an hour plus tax. So you're looking at over $200 an hour to fly an IFR capable 172, and I've seen that plane, I've rented that plane, and it's the exact same setup that I have in my Cherokee. So right there, my savings per hour equate to about $55 an hour. Whether you're building your hours for your commercial license or your ATP, that makes a huge difference when you're talking about hundreds of hours that you have to do at $50 savings. That is $5,000 saved over the course of 100 hours. That is crazy. So in my case, owning my own plane has been a way better option, a way cheaper option. But like I said at the beginning, I've also been very lucky with my plane where there hasn't been any surprises so far in it. And I know that should something come up or should an AD be released that requires me to pull the wings to look at bolts or whatever, it's totally gonna be on me, and I might find myself with a very salty bill. However, the beauty of a partnership is that you're not 100% responsible for that amount. You're splitting that cost with someone. So it does help swallow that pill a little bit more. So at the end of the day, in my case, I can say that owning my own plane has been a lot cheaper than renting it for the equivalent amount of hours. And speaking of renting, you can check out this video right here where I rented a plane in Hawaii to do some location scouting for a similar job like I did here in the Dominican. And that's gonna be it for this one. So we'll see you on the next one. Fly safe. Ciao, guys.